John and Susie, looks like they're here. We'll let them in. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, Rabbi.
How are you, Joan?
Good, thank you. How are you, Rabbi?
Wonderful. Thank you for
Wonderful.
asking. We're doing wonderful as well. Is Susie there as well today?
She will be in half. Oh, how did I lose everything? I pulled up reading and I lost it. Jiminy Cricket.
You know what? I was once speaking to an old lady, and she said at my age, my favorite place to go is the bathroom. I asked
That's
her
right.
why. She said that's the only place I go that I don't forget what I'm going there for.
Now, what did that have to do with my losing the reading? Where is that? Let's see.
Oh, you lost it on your phone. Okay. No.
Yeah, I don't know what you meant.
My favorite my my
Anyway,
favorite line is, you know how I know I'm here? Because
how
I'm
do you know
definitely
you're
not over there.
I go vault, very cute. Where do you get your
Okay.
lines from?
I pick them up. Some of them I make them up. God
Good
is
for
good.
you.
God is very kind.
Yes.
So
All right.
today we have an excellent class, a class as I mentioned in the introduction, that for those who know about this concept, it is a very important and very widespread and well-known concept. For those who don't know it, it's not yet. So hopefully we're going to bring you guys, if you are in the category of those who are familiar with this subject, I hope to bring more insight and background to the concept. And if you are new to it, I hope to bring you onto the side of those who are familiar with this. So, today is the first day of the Purim month. The Purim month is called Adar, the 12th month of the Jewish year. Don't ask me why next month is not Rosh Hashanah. If this is the last month of the year, that's just Jewish math.
Just okay.
Okay. Um, so, good morning, good morning, and a happy new month. So, this year we only have one Adar.
I thought you had heard the door was closed. Oh, open up this time.
Not this time. So, this one we've been through many times. How do you make a large fortune in Israel?
How do you make one?
How do you make a large fortune in Israel?
Oh, what a big one.
Start with a large one. Start with a. What did I say? I said, how do you make a small fortune in Israel? Yeah. Ah,
Are you
man,
still
I'm about to joke.
large?
Okay, we're gonna start again. Rewind. How do you
Really?
make a small fortune in Israel? Start with a
Start
large
with a
one.
large one.
Yeah, very good. Or as many people will tell you that their business was 10% of their brain and 90% of their life. So this month is a very special month. Oh, before we begin, for those who have already said your morning prayers, you've already made the blessing on the learning of the Torah. For those who have not yet, we're going to make the blessing over the learning of the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah. This month is a very, very special month, an extremely special month. And why Purim is in this month? But the entire month is affected by the joy of Purim. And let us begin with source number one. Joan, do you have that in front of you?
I do. Okay,
Go
the
ahead.
rabbi. Oh, there is reason to distinguish between
No,
Purim and
the source one, adding and joy, from the Talmud in Tanit, page 29, Rabbi Yehuda.
Rabbi Yehuda, the son of Rabbi Shmuel Bar Shalat, said in the name of Rab, when Adar arrives, we increase in joy.
Thank you. When Adar arrives, we increase in joy. So the joy doesn't start only from Purim, which is one of the most joyous days of the entire year. The joy begins from the beginning of the month, which is today, or even yesterday, which is still part of the new month. It's the last day of last month, but it's part of the new month. We'll get to that at a different time. More Jewish math. Says the Rebbe, there is reason to distinguish between Purim itself, when joy reaches the level termed until one does not know. For those who do not know, the mitzvah, there is a mitzvah on Purim to get drunk until you do not know the difference between cursed be Haman and blessed be Mordechai. So that is a great level of joy. And the days that are before and after Purim, we're joyous, but not that strongly joyous. However, the concept of increasing in joy applies throughout the entire month of Adar, from the moment the month begins. In the words of the Megillah, the month that was transformed from sadness into joy. There's a story that I want to tell you about a man who, I don't know if they had the word alcoholic yet, but what do they say? When people tell me that I drink alcohol, so I'm an alcoholic. No, I drink spirits. I'm spiritual. In the olden days, they used to call them a shicker. The town shicker. And he made no secret of the fact that he enjoyed
his liquor.
His liquor. Yeah. I was going to say a good bottle of liquor, but he enjoyed a bad bottle of liquor too. And it was one day, it was the first day of the month of Adar, and he began drinking in public, in the synagogue, right? You can't drink in public spaces, but he was drinking in the synagogue. And someone came over to him and asked him, it's not Purim yet, why are you so drunk? And he said, I have a Talmudic explanation for this.
Joyful.
I have a halachic backing for my actions. Haman was a wicked man. Why did Haman want to kill all the Jews only on one day, the 14th day of Adar? Was it that uneasy for him to kill Jews that he wanted to get it over and done with all in one day? Wouldn't he have rather go on a killing spree for an entire month, destroying the Jews, every city, everywhere, and making sure that he did a good job of it?
I don't get the question.
Haman was a wicked man.
Yes.
Why did he want to kill all the Jews on one day? Was it that squeamish for him to kill Jews that he wanted to get it over and done with? He's an evil man who hates the Jews. He would be more than happy to do an entire month of killing. It's a good question, especially from a drunk guy. But he says, I'll tell you why. Haman knew that there's a possibility. He was hedging his bets. Haman knew that there's a possibility that he will lose. And if he loses, the Jewish people will celebrate. Well, Zalman, how does the joke go with the guy who comes to the soothsayer? Ask him, what day will I die?
Oh.
Who?
You got.
Who was
You're
it?
gonna die on a Jewish holiday.
Yeah, who was it?
I forget who it's about.
Some big anti-Semite, Henry Ford or someone. I don't remember.
Right. So how do you know? He says it doesn't matter. Whatever day you die, and that's the Jewish holiday.
Exactly. This big anti-Semite or murderer of the Jews. I don't remember who it was.
I forget who it was.
Went to a soothsayer and said, when am I going to die? And the soothsayer, tarot reader, whatever, said you're going to die on a Jewish holiday. He says, which one? He says, it doesn't matter. Whatever day you die will be a Jewish holiday. So Haman knew that when he dies, it's going to be a Jewish holiday. So he thought to himself, if I'm going to have a whole month planned of this, then they're going to celebrate an entire month. So he made it all on one day. That way, if the Jews celebrate, they'll only get one day celebration, not another 8-day or month-long celebration. He says, I know Haman's plot. I know Haman's plan. So to spite him, I'm going to celebrate the entire month and I'll be drunk this whole month. See, he's not going to get away with it. I know what he was thinking.
Proves you can rationalize anything if you just got a bit of imagination.
Like last week, right? But last week's class was about that. Yeah. But listen, I think that's pretty good logic, pretty sound logic coming from an inebriated man under the, as we say, under the affluence of alcohol.
He's not going to cheat me out of the whole month. He's not going to cheat me out of the whole month.
Exactly.
What's the best way to avoid a hangover?
Don't sober up. Yeah. But getting drunk doesn't give you a hangover. Getting sober gives you a hangover. Yeah. Well said, Zom. Very well said.
Rabbi, did you mean to say affluence of liquor rather than influence?
No, I said instead of influence of alcohol, we say the affluence of alcohol.
Oh. Ay.
Okay. As discussed several times, continues the Rebbe, every concept must find clear and practical expression in actual Jewish law. So where do we find this joy, right? So we have to be joyous, we have to be happy, very nice. But what practical ramifications are there? In this context, law includes established Jewish customs, which are also regarded as the Torah. Okay. So let's talk first about marriage, and then we're going to see a source for that. The custom has been up until very recently that we don't hold Jewish weddings in the second half of the month. The reason for that we're going to see right now. Regarding marriage, the opinion of the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Israel's, is that weddings should be held only during the first half of the month when the moon is waxing, because we want this marriage to be a strong marriage that gets stronger and stronger, not in the second half, which represents the moon waning. Nevertheless, during the month of Adar, a month of good fortune for the Jewish people, even those who follow the Ramah's opinion, page 2, even those who follow the Ramah's opinion, which is the Ashkenazim, the Ashkenazic Jews, hold weddings during the second half of this month as well. This is because it is the month that was transformed into joy. Source number 2, Madcha David, would you read for us?
Source number 2. The custom is.
And this is, from the Aruch HaShulchan, who is one of the commentators on the Code of Jewish Law.
The custom is to marry only during the first half of the month when the moon is waxing, and not while it's waning. This is considered a sign of good luck, similar to the way kings are anointed by a spring as a sign that their reign should endure. During the months of Elul, Tishrei, and Adar, this custom is not in effect.
Thank you very much. So we see here clearly in Jewish law that although the custom in most months is not to have a wedding in the second half of the month of Adar is such a joyous month that we have weddings also in the second half of the month. Next.
Wait, isn't Tishrei in the month of Elul?
Tishrei is the month of the high holidays. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot. Elul is the month that precedes the month of the high holidays.
Tishrei.
So we have 3 months: Elul, Tishrei, and Adar.
What's the matter? What custom is not in effect?
The custom not to marry in the second half of the month. So weddings can be held in the second half of Elul, the second half of Tishrei, and the second half of Adar, because these are months of good luck.
During the months of Elul, Tishrei, and this custom is not in effect. In other words, it's okay to marry in the second half of.
Correct. So you don't have to get married today. Get married at the end of the month as well.
Right.
Anyone have a girl from Mitch?
Speak up.
What is the story? Is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? Do I have a goil for you?
I go, whoa.
He's practicing. Yeah, I really would be interested.
Why do doctors call what they do a practice? That's not very comforting. And why is the place where the airplanes land called a terminal? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You see, we're in such good spirits already. The month of Adar is having a good effect on us.
Airplane thing called a terminal.
Driveway, we drive on a parkway.
We park in a driveway and we drive in a parkway. And cargo goes by. Cargo goes by ship, and a shipment goes by car. Why does the army have more? What is it? The army has more planes. No, the army has more ships than the navy, how is it? The Navy has more planes than the Air Force, and the Army has more ships than the Navy. Something like that. It's interesting. Look up the statistics. The Navy does not have the most ships, and the Air Force does not have the most
You have a lot
planes.
of planes.
I don't remember which is which, but
Wow.
yeah. Anyways, okay. Next is more halacha. When do we read the Megillah? The ganze Megillah. On Purim. Yeah, we read the Megillah on Purim. However, in extenuating circumstances, what happens if there's someone who lives and they don't have access to a Megillah? But today, they're here in the big city on business. They need to get back to their wives, families, and they're here today. And it's not yet Purim. Can they read the Megillah? Can someone read the Megillah for them? Say there is a large amount of cities with illiterate Jews who cannot read the Megillah. And it's not possible. There are not enough Megillah readers that you could send them to all of these places on the day of Purim. Can you go in advance and read the Megillah for them? Well, of course you could read it for them, but does it count, is the question. Says the Rebbe, continuing page number 2, reading Megillah all month.
Not on Purim Day, that's the question.
Correct. If it's not on Purim Day, can you still fulfill your obligation? So the Talmud in the beginning of Tractate Megillah gives certain dates, the days to the Monday and Thursday before Purim could be sometimes because that was the market day, and so when people would come into the market, if it was the Monday before Purim or the Thursday before Purim, whichever was closest, then there would be rabbis who would stand in the marketplace, gather around these farmers, and read the Megillah for them.
If you're trying to build as best you
Okay.
If that's the best you can. So if it's before Adar, then that's too early. So the question is, meaning for your heart, for yourself, you've done what you could. But the question is, what about the mitzvah, right?
Reading.
No, sorry.
Baruch is strongly objecting.
You have to find something that's within halacha.
Within the
in
legal
order to
framework.
negate it, in order to negate a mitzvah.
So in order for
Well,
you
yes,
to have done the best you can only do the best you can. But in order to fulfill your obligation, it has to fit within the rules. For
Is there an
example,
obligation to do the best you can?
so let me ask you this. If you have a lulav and the hadassim and the aravis, but there's no etrog anywhere, can you use a lemon instead?
Citrus, related.
So the answer is no. The answer is no. You can't use a citrus instead, a lemon instead, because it has to be specifically
What if
the
you
etrog.
live- What if you live in a country where there are no pests?
Want to hear a crazy story?
Mhm.
Lubavitcher Rebbe, when he was younger, it was in wartime, middle of the Holocaust, I think it was, traveled perilously. Thank God he survived, but he traveled a few days' journey, if I'm not mistaken, to procure an esrog for those who were, I believe it was somewhere in France that he was at the time. Perhaps something about matzah as well. I'm not remembering all the details of the story. So it's important to remember that this is God's rule. So if we want to, if
That's the same to where I from. That could be in Australia. Native to Australia.
they're not as native to Australia, they're native to
Okay, so-
Italy.
All right, so you're in the Australian outback, and there is that for instance, 3,000 miles.
Correct, or 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles.
Right.
So you can't do the mitzvah. God's not going to hold it against you. You did your best. You tried your best. You ordered the shipment, and then it got seized by customs, and the customs officials won't let you get it. God's not going to hold you on the hook for that. You did your best. But the actual mitzvah and everything that the mitzvah accomplishes hasn't been accomplished.
Even if you use a lemon or a lime, you just fix it.
Correct.
That's
Correct. There's this is a story they say of a little kid. Little kid asked his father for $1 that he can go get a candy, whatever, 10 cents. They can go get a candy. He comes back 5 minutes later, crying to his father. His pocket had a hole, and he lost his 10 cents. The father says, "Okay, I'll give you another 10 cents." The kid is happy for a second, and then he starts to cry. And the father says, "Why are you crying? I gave you another 10 cents." He says, "Because if I wouldn't have lost that one, then now I would have 20. Could have got myself 2 candy."
Right.
Didn't connect it.
So if somebody misses the obligation, so what needed to be accomplished can never be accomplished. Let's say a person missed the day of putting on tefillin, so they can put on tefillin the next day, but that's for that day. You can never put on tefillin for a day that you missed after you already missed it. So every day we do our best, and it's very important to know what is within the framework and what is not within the framework. These are rules that were made by God, and so we have to fulfill them the way that God intended. Otherwise, we're very quickly slipping into creating our own religion, which is very nice and very meaningful and feels very good. But if we want it to be God's religion, then we have to do it the way that He asked us to do it. Nobody's gonna hold you responsible. They're not gonna burn you for not having a Megillah around. Then you didn't have a Megillah around. What can you do about it? But in terms of accomplishing the mitzvah, it hasn't been accomplished unless it was accomplished through an appropriate and fitting manner that fits within the framework of Jewish law. Does that sit well with you?
I'm gonna have to mull that over.
Okay. Get back to us on that. Well, give me homework. So yes, we do the best that we can, but was it like I've quoted this a few times before. And I'll say just in short about these kids that found a guy and he wasn't wearing a yarmulke or tzitzit or anything, and they asked him, "Oh, are you Reformed?" He says, "No, I'm Orthodox." And they look at him and they say, "Well, you sure as heck don't look Orthodox, and neither does that pork in your kitchen." And he says, "I'm not religious, but I'm Orthodox." He says, "I'm not keeping the laws, but I know what they are."
Mhm.
Okay.
I remember there was recently, I just heard the story. I forget what the context was, but main part was from I would believe the judge that I was in the country and never missed service. Yes, but then I don't think it
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you're bringing it up, I'm gonna go. No, too far off topic. Okay. Back here, reading the Megillah all month. The Talmud Yerushalmi, which is the Jerusalem Talmud, the Jerusalem version of the Talmud is conversations that were written down from conversations that happened in the study halls in Israel, as opposed to the Babylonian Talmud, which is written down from conversations that happened. Guess where? In Babylonia.
that's the one we read.
That's the one we read on Tuesdays. And the Jerusalem Talmud states that the Megillah may be read during the entire month of Adar, citing the month that was transformed into joy. Source number 3, Zalman, would you like to read for us?
The entire month is fit for reading the Megillah. Why? Because it is the month that was transformed for them from sorrow to joy.
Thank you. So because the entire month was transformed from sorrow to joy, the entire month is fitting for the reading of the Megillah. Page number 3 says the Rebbe. This is also reflected in Jewish law. The Code of Jewish Law rules that someone who is setting out on a sea voyage or traveling with a caravan and will not have a Megillah to take along with him should read it on the 13th, 12th, or 11th day of Adar. If it is not possible to wait until those days, there is an opinion that one may read it even from the beginning of the month, and the Ramah adds that this is the accepted practice. So that's how it's brought down and codified in the Code of Jewish Law. Court cases, an important preemptive strike before we get to this section of court cases. Very important to note that the Torah, as a general rule, does not speak for scoundrels. The Torah does not deal with scoundrels. We're going to read the next part, and then you'll tell me why I said that. The Talmud continues and discusses the scenario of a Jew who has a court case with a non-Jew. Chaim, would you please read for us source number 4?
Rabbi Papa said a Jew who has a court case with a non-Jew should avoid scheduling it in the month of Av because of its bad luck, and endeavor to schedule it for Adar because of its good luck.
Thank you. So why did I give that preemption, and why did I say that the Torah doesn't deal, for the most part, the Torah doesn't talk for scoundrels? Anyone tell me? Because someone might come along and say that we're talking about a person who stole from a non-Jew, and now he's going to set his court case for Adar, he's going to get off scot-free. No, it doesn't work like that. If you commit a crime, you commit a crime. We're talking about in the times, for example, where the Jewish people were persecuted for no reason, and they would be set up in court for things they never did. And so, or in just in general, there was a huge predisposition against the Jewish people. So many a time throughout history, innocent Jewish people were convicted of crimes that they never did just because they were Jewish. So if you can get a court case, as much as they needed a good lawyer, they needed a lot of luck. And so Rabbi Papa said, the month of Adar is a good time because the mazel, we have good mazel, it's good luck in the month of Adar. Therefore, you should have these court cases in the month of Adar. And this is going to become more apparent as we continue in the next section. Going to court with a non-Jew. Yes.
So Bernie Madoff.
So perhaps in terms of the how strong the sentence is, right, to get a more favorable sentence. But yeah, I don't think that would have come under the under, and I don't think that the rest applies to such portions either. Was that a knock on the door?
What a great
What?
Madoff with a lot of.
I'd say that Bernie Madoff with all my money.
Sons didn't have to die.
Okay, that's a shame.
Yeah, his whole family thought that.
The world in their hearts. Now here we're going to go to a beautiful concept. A beautiful concept. Page number 4. The Rebbe says, the verse states that God placed the world within their hearts, referring to the Jewish people. God placed the world in your heart. What does that mean? What does it mean the world is in my heart? So in short, what that means is that whatever happens in the world can be controlled by my heart. So when they say that the Jews control everything, it's not so untrue. Not so untrue. It's not true in the way that they say it. That is not correct. However, we have more power than we think. For example, what was in Israel? The Rebbe made a strong campaign, I forget which year this was, that everyone should have a tzedakah box, a charity box, not only in their house, but affixed to the wall of their house. That the entire house becomes part of that charity box. And a short while later, it was found that there was a huge earthquake that was supposed to take place. And in the areas that because the Rebbe had instructed some people listened and put up these tzedakah boxes, these charity boxes affixed to the walls of their houses, that mitigated, and it was instead only a very small amount of damage. So we have, through our power of learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, we can have a real effect. Like another clear example of this is the Rebbe's call to action for men to put on tefillin every day in advance of the 6-day war. And we see exactly, very clearly, what could have happened and what did happen. We have a huge amount. Let's see if you can please put that on silent. It follows that anything that exists in the world must have a root and source among the Jewish people. This is also understood from the fact that the creation of the world begins with the word Bereshit, which the sages interpret as meaning the world was created for the sake of the Jewish people who are called first, and for the sake of the Torah, which is called first, as the Jewish people and the Torah are bound up with one another. It is likewise reflected in the Talmudic statement that the first human was created on the eve of Shabbat so that he would immediately enter the feast, meaning that he would find all of creation already prepared. Could you imagine if Adam was created on the first day and then he'd have to wait around for 3 days until he could eat a vegetable? God created the entire world ready, and and he was one of the last things that were created so that the entire world would be prepared for him. Okay, so
What's the word for, I thought there's the days, that's
Bereshit means in the beginning. Destiny. Not coming to me right now. The internal non-Jew. Okay, so this is a new concept that might take some mulling over. We'll read through it, and then if you have any questions, please let me know. From this, we can also understand our present subject, and also you'll see why we're talking only about things that are external, but not things that you caused or. From this, we can also understand our present subject, the reason why a situation of a Jew having a legal dispute with a non-Jew exists. How could it be that the non-Jew is coming and having any kind of power over a Jew? The reason why this exists is because this dynamic first exists within the Jew himself, meaning the inner battle and judgment that takes place between the Jew and the non-Jewish element within him, which is the foreign God within you. We are talking, page number 5, we are talking about people who haven't yet reached the level of being completely righteous. Completely righteous, such as one who has no evil inclination. Rather, they are on the level described as the intermediate person, which is a level relevant to most people, for whom both sides act as judges. We are pulled to the good and we are pulled to the evil. There is an ongoing internal deliberation between the divine soul and the foreign God within you. There is a power of us that is the Jew within us that pulls us to God, and there is a power within us that is the foreign God within us that pulls us towards negativity, which is being coined here as the non-Jew within us. However, that is not to say, God forbid, that non-Jews are foreign gods and evil. We're talking about within us. You have to make a distinction between the good and the evil. So that's how we're coining it. However, the purpose of this struggle is ultimately for our benefit, so that we should overcome the negative inclination and defeat it. The Tanya cites the parable of the harlot from the Zohar to illustrate this. What's the parable of the harlot from the Zohar? There's a king who wants to know how committed his son is. Wants to know where his son is holding in his character development. So he hires a harlot to try and seduce the son to sin with her. So the harlot is a subject of the king, and she understands exactly what her mission is. She's being given a very dangerous mission, because if she succeeds, what does that mean about the entire future of the kingdom? Bad news. So on the one hand, she is trying as hard as she can to seduce this boy, because that's what the king has hired her to do. On the other hand, what does she really want? She really wants that this child will withstand her advances and will say no and run away. So too it is with the evil side within us. The evil side within us was commissioned by God to distract us from our mission and distract us from our objectives in this world. The evil side within us does its best to do its job to try and distract us from our spiritual pursuits. However, the evil side among us, the evil side within us, does not want us to follow its advice and suggestions. It wants us to stay loyal to God. Very interesting story over here. Zalman, would you like to read? Not Zalman. Baruch, would you like to read source number 5 for us? Zalman, you just read a source, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Source number 5.
The story is told that when the Chassid Rabbi Shmuel Munkus first came to the Alter Rebbe, it was in the middle of the night when all the houses in the town were dark. He reasoned that the Alter Rebbe would surely still be awake studying, so there must still be a light on in his home. He found the Alter Rebbe's house and knocked on the door. Since the members of the household were already asleep, the Alter Rebbe himself opened the door and asked the visitor, "What do you want?" or something to that effect. After an extended back and forth, the Alter Rebbe said to Rabbi Shmuel, "I can call the non-Jewish servant in the house to throw you out." Rabbi Shmuel responded, "Rebbe, my non-Jew is greater than your non-Jew," referring to his own internal non-Jew, his powerful negative inclination. From that exchange, Rabbi Shmuel Munker's deep bond with the Alter Rebbe began. From this we understand that the month of Adar is especially suited for success even in conducting the inner case, arguing it out, so to speak, with the non-Jew within you in order to overcome and defeat it.
Thank you. Fixing the source. The proper approach when waging the battle against the foreign god within you is that when something undesirable appears, we correct the root cause that brought it about. By addressing the root cause, the result will automatically be corrected as well. This is similar to the healing of the physical body, where eliminating the symptoms and effects of an illness does not suffice. For example, when an illness causes a high fever, it is not sufficient merely to find ways to reduce the fever. The fever is only a symptom and a result of the illness. Once the effect of the medication that lowers the fever wears off, the symptoms will return because the underlying cause, the illness itself, has not been cured. The same is true in a person's spiritual life. When one does an improper action or even speech or thought, it is a symptom that points to an inner illness of the soul, an unhealthy character trait or an inclination in the heart, or a distorted idea in the mind. Ultimately, the root of all undesirable tendencies is described as Amalek, which represents arrogance or a cold indifference to holy matters, page 7. This inner attitude is what leads to improper expressions in the external garments of the soul, which are thought, speech, and action. Therefore, it is not enough to merely correct the action itself. Of course, that is also absolutely necessary, just as someone who has stolen must rectify his action by returning what was taken. But that only repairs the external situation. It does not yet correct the person himself. We must also address and heal the inner cause, the illness within the soul. By doing so, the resulting expressions in thought, speech, and action will also be corrected. When we win this inner battle against the foreign god within, it automatically leads to victory in the external struggle with negative forces in the world as well, the legal dispute with the non-Jew in its literal sense. This external struggle is an outgrowth of the inner struggle. So the Rebbe is saying that the reason why this allegation came against this innocent person to begin with is because something needs to be fixed within himself or herself. And once we fix that, everything else will fall to the wayside and we will be fine. Where are we holding with time? Yeah, I'm going to throw in another story. So, when God created the world, the animals were in fear and trepidation of the humans. Adam didn't have to worry about the lions and the tigers. Today we do. The answer is, the reason for that is because we are not that much different than them. If we looked like humans, the way Adam did before the sin, the way Cain did before he killed Abel, then indeed we would have no issues. However, because we are who we are, and there is a large part of us that is an animal just like the other animals, therefore we are not seen as that much superior. There's a story from a few hundred years ago of a rabbi who went from Israel to, I believe it was Turkey, or one of these countries, to raise money for his community in Israel. He was a very holy man, and when he's getting close to the dock of the capital city of whichever country it was that he was going to, or maybe there was an evil decree that he was trying to get rescinded, I don't remember, one of the two. He was going for an important cause. And as he's getting there, he sees there are people, the guy with the binoculars on the ship, what's he called? Lookout man? The guy from the lookout tower says, land ahoy! And then he sees that there's a huge commotion and everyone's standing on the rooftops. Everyone looks very excited. And they're getting closer to the dock, and there's someone on the port screaming at them and says, "Don't dock your boats." He says, "Why?" They said, "Because the man who's in charge of the king's zoo or whatever, he didn't lock the gate of the lions properly, and there are two lions that are roaming the city streets. So don't dock your boat." And this rabbi, an extremely and extraordinarily holy man, he said, "I need to get there. Give me a kayak, and I'll go on onto land myself." So he goes and he's walking around, and everybody's looking at this rabbi who's walking the streets unafraid. And word is spreading from rooftop to rooftop like wildfire that there's some crazy man walking the streets when the lions are on the loose. A short while later, he finds these lions and they come over to him and they walk next to him like little puppies. And he has his hands on the head of each of these lions and is walking through the street. And now you can imagine the uproar. Everyone is, "What in the world is going on? The lion whisperer himself has come." And he leads them back towards the palace, and he asks the guards where do they go. He puts them into their cage, and he locks it up, and he comes before the king calls for him. He comes before the king, and the king says, "How is like what is going on over here?" And he explains what we just said. It's very simple. The reason why animals are not afraid of humans is because they look more like animals than like humans. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but of course, with incredible humility, that a person who their entire life is devoted to the Torah and the mitzvahs and uh, is as close to God as it gets, per se. The animals view me as a human, and they're afraid of me. And the king was very impressed and helped with whatever needed to be helped. There is a story, a more recent story, and he's about a rabbi whose name was Reb Shloimke Zviller. He was one of the holy men of Jerusalem. Once he was driving through the streets of the city, he was attacked by Arab youths, and they were throwing stones at his car. It was starting to get dangerous, and the driver said, like, "I don't know, what are we supposed to do?" So the Rebbe turned to his driver and said, "Stop the car." The Rebbe exited the car, stood opposite the Arabs, and screamed in Yiddish, "Shegitz! Get out! Shegitz, arois von da!" He said to them in Yiddish. Surprisingly, the Arabs scattered, and the Rebbe continued on his way. The driver asked, "Why did you scream at them in Yiddish? They don't understand Yiddish, and how did it work?" He said, "It's very simple. I wasn't talking to them. I was talking to the shegitz within myself. And once I demanded that the coarse, unrefined elements of my personality leave me, the Arabs no longer had any power to do me any harm." Says the Rebbe, page number 7, this is the unique quality of this month of Adar. The month of Tishrei is the month that's associated with repentance. The month of Nisan, which is the Passover month, is associated with the spiritual service of the completely righteous. Sivan is the month of the giving of the Torah. Yet Adar, the month of Purim, has its own special strength. It is particularly suited for success in overcoming the non-Jewish element and the foreign God within ourselves and in the world at large. This also creates a serious response. That doesn't mean we're going to kill the goyim. No, God forbid. This means that the negativity that's within the world, which we're referring to here as the opposite of the Jewish and the opposite of the godly, and the term we're coining for this, is the non-Jew. That we're going to get rid of the non-Jews within the non-Jews. This also creates a serious responsibility. As has been explained many times, if we don't utilize the powers and opportunities that we are granted from above, this causes a disturbance in the intended order of creation. Victory in our inner struggle against the non-Jewish element within us and the broader world generates joy. This is why we are told that from the moment Adar begins, we increase in joy. The wording is precise. The increase must be continuous, growing from moment to moment and certainly from day to day. Ultimately, this leads to the greatest joy of all, the everlasting joy upon our heads, which will be realized with the coming of the righteous Mashiach. The joy of Purim will be joined to the final redemption, about which it is said, "As in the days of your exodus from Egypt, I will show you wonders." May this take place very soon. Is Susie there? Can she read source number 6?
Susan, you want to read?
Well,
I never got the email, Rabbi. Jen, you read.
She doesn't like to use her phone, Rabbi.
Well, I
Go
never
for
got it.
Susie,
Okay,
source number 3.
there's a critical rule to know. In physical battle, for example, when two people are wrestling, if one is depressed and sluggish, they will be easily defeated even if they are physically stronger. The same applies to overpowering or negative inclination. It cannot be defeated with low spirits. It requires energy that comes forth from joy and an open, pure heart, free of all worries in the world.
Beautifully summed up. If we want to be able to accomplish this, we can't accomplish this through depression. If we want to take over our soul and take over the world, that can only happen through joy. To summarize on page number 9, the key points. The reason for success. The fortune of the Jewish people is especially strong in this month. Because of this good fortune, a Jew's ability to prevail in the inner legal battle of the soul, the struggle between the inner negativity and the good, is greatly strengthened. The external world reflects what is occurring within the Jewish people. The legal struggle a Jew has with non-Jew mirrors the struggle we have internally with the non-Jew inside each of us. Just as in healing the body, the proper approach is to treat the root of the illness, which naturally resolves the symptoms, so too in spiritual work, true victory over the inner evil comes from addressing the spiritual root that gives rise to problematic behaviors. Likewise, when we prevail in the inner spiritual battle, this naturally brings victory and success in the external legal matters as well. We should take advantage of the special power of the month of Adar to overcome the negativity within us and attain great joy. Wishing you a wonderful month, a healthy month, a happy month, and most of all, a joyous month. Once again, please mark your calendars. For Purim is going to be the 14th of Adar, just like every year. The English calendar is going to be March 3rd this year. We will begin at 5:15 p.m. on March 3rd. Please mark your calendars. You can RSVP on the website, ChabadCentralBroward.com. Looking forward to see you all there. Looking forward to see you all next Wednesday or next Tuesday for those who will be by the Talmud class. God bless you all. And look at that. We finished a few minutes early. Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Susie.
Thank you,
Bye.
Rabbi.
Have a
Wishing you
nice
joy.
Thank you. Take care.
How much difference is there